towns and the rural communities, those are the communities that get overlooked by everybody else. We hope to become the source of news for everybody. If you want to know what's happening in Nebraska, we want to be the one-stop shop for that. We will tell you what's happening in the state every hour on NCN. I'm Michael Shively, and I'm the evening anchor on News Channel Nebraska.
If you've got the TV volume way up right now, then you really need these. These tiny but powerful little hearing aids are the Nano CIC Recharge, priced at only $297 for a full pair. These are not simply amplifiers. These are ultra high quality, ultra reliable hearing aids, priced thousands less than other hearing aids. They fit right in your ear. Nothing shows in the back of your ear. Payments as low as $36 a month.
Call 1-800-431-3690.
It is definitely time you consider Midwest Music Center when needing to update or repair your sound system in the school gym, church, ball field, conference room, or any place you're looking for the best quality sound system and to get the best people to install it for you. Your local sound system supplier is located in downtown Norfolk. So call or email today to set up an appointment for a free on-site bid or estimate. Midwest Music Center, located on the River Point in historic downtown Norfolk.
This is a News Channel Nebraska special report.
Good afternoon. It is coming up on 3:15 Central Time, and in just a few moments we'll be taking you to the State Chamber of Commerce's Gubernatorial Forum. 6 candidates will be on hand, a chance for you to hear the candidates for governor in their own words. Let's take you now live to the State Chamber's Forum.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 Nebraska Chamber of Commerce Gubernatorial Candidate Forum, the only forum in the state to introduce our business leaders to the governor candidates. My name is Tara Lee. I'm the president and CEO of the Fremont Area Chamber of Commerce and the proud past chair of the Nebraska Chambers Association. The Nebraska Chambers Association is made up of executives and professionals from your local Chamber of Commerce and other organizations aligned with our business goals of enhancing Nebraska's business community by cultivating successful chamber professionals and business advocates. Our statewide organization covers all 49 legislative districts, and we represent over 10,000 Nebraska businesses. We're very excited to be partnering today with the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and with News Channel Nebraska to provide this live forum. And of course, we can't wait to hear what the candidates have to say. Just to note, today is not a debate. The main purpose of this event is first and foremost to provide an opportunity to familiarize the Nebraska Chamber members and all community leaders across the state about our candidates' views, especially those geared towards business priorities. Each candidate has been given a specific amount of time to answer previously provided questions. As a reminder, candidates, there are different time limits for each one, so I'll remind you of the time limit before you start to respond. There is not time set aside for candidate rebuttal. So if you don't like something that someone says about you, you're going to have to go old school and take it to the parking lot. Nothing on the stage here. We're hoping for a very fun, educational, and friendly 75-minute session. Candidate biographies can also be found on nechamber.com if you'd like to have more information about any of the candidates. All right, let's get to the good stuff. We're going to begin today with opening statements. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for their introduction. Senator Blood, we're going to start with you, and then we'll make our way alphabetically back down the row.
Well, good afternoon, all. My name is Senator Carol Blood. I currently represent District 3 of the Nebraska Legislature, which is parts of Papillion and Bellevue, Nebraska. But I am a Nebraska native, born in McCook, Nebraska, raised in rural Adams County, Nebraska. We still have a family farm in Clay County. And I raised my own family in Sarpy County. My husband Joe and I have 3 adult children. We have 3, not 2. And 10 awesome grandchildren. Prior to serving the Nebraska Legislature, I did serve 8 years on the Bellevue City Council. For trade, I write business plans and feasibility assessments. I've done so since 2005. Prior to that, I ran a Sarpy County Chamber of Commerce. I am running my campaign on 4 pillars. Pillar number 1, that prosperity should be brought to all Nebraskans, regardless of who you are, what you look like, where you live, or how you identify. Pillar number 2, We must invest and continue to invest in our infrastructure here in Nebraska in order to compete in an ongoing, growing global community. Pillar number 3, it's important that we continue to not only embrace law enforcement, but also embrace public health, because everybody wants to feel safe in their communities and be well. And then, of course, we want to embrace education, because we know the pathway to growing our workforce is not necessarily a 4-year degree. With that said, as an elected official, I see myself as a steward to the community. I don't believe in party or politics. I believe in policy and people. And my track record shows exactly that. I'm very proud of my track record. I have served my community for decades, from everything from serving on the Bellevue Public Safety Foundation to running one of the top 5 farmers markets in Nebraska as a volunteer, and I gladly do that every Saturday from 6:30 in the morning to noon for 5 months out of the year. With that, I am thrilled to be here, and thank you for today's forum.
Thank you. Mr. Herbster.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here in Nebraska, and it's great to talk about what we can do to increase everything that's happening in this great state, from education to small business to ranching and to farming. I'm a 5th-generation farmer from Falls City, Nebraska. Have lived in Nebraska, but have had the opportunity to build businesses in over 40 states, 20,000 people in the small business community from state to state, from coast to coast. And I can share with you that when I look at Nebraska and I travel around the country and I talk to individuals in this state on the campaign trail, everyone has the same concern, and that's economic development. That's our labor force, that's our property tax, our income tax. And so I think the greatest thing about this forum today is we're going to have the opportunity to talk about property tax, tax in general. We need a new tax code in Nebraska. Our tax code takes us back to 1967. We have to have a tax code in Nebraska that is 21st century, and that tax code has to do about 3 specific things. Number 1, it has to build economic growth in our state to bring businesses here and bring individuals here. Number 2, it's got to build a system where we have the opportunity to increase jobs in this state. And number 3, it has to be a system that's going to be revenue same, not increases in our taxes. And we can do that. When I look at what's happening in the state of Iowa with the governor, when I look at what's happening in South Dakota and South Carolina, I can share with you we can do the same thing in Nebraska. And as governor, my number 1 job is going to be to market the greatness of this state.
Senator.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having us here today. It's great to be with you and great to be with the state chamber. I've enjoyed working with the state chamber in my 8 years as a state senator. I'm born and raised in Nebraska, actually born in Lincoln here and then raised in Omaha, graduated from Millard West High School. Walked on at the University of Nebraska, played football for 5 years, lettered, and then got my degree in history. I joined my father in the investment industry, and have been in the private sector for the last 20 years. I'm the dad of 3 young kids, Colette, Barron, and Olivia, and if you're watching at home, hello. And a husband to my wife, Lee, 14 years. And like I said, I've been a state senator and have served in this role. I'm going into my last term here. Over that time frame, I've worked on a lot of different issues, and in particular, tax reform and economic development. And I'm proud of the fact that I've worked with the state chamber and folks all across Nebraska to put Nebraska in a better position from a competitive nature, and will continue to do that as governor of the great state of Nebraska. Over that time frame, and we're still working on it, but I've had the opportunity to pass the bill last year. Probably the biggest tax cut we've done in decades. That was to phase out the tax on Social Security income. I'm bringing a bill this year to speed that up. Another bill that ties into economic development is dealing with youth athletic sports complexes. So if you're traveling around the country or other states to take kids to youth athletic sports tournaments, you now can stay in Nebraska, and Kearney is investing $34 million in putting in a project. So I'm looking forward to having the discussions today to talk about recruiting and retaining talent, workforce housing, rural broadband, infrastructure investment, And so I'm looking forward to tackling those issues and talk about what I have in plan and what I see Nebraska and what the future holds for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lundstrom. Regent Pillen.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you to the Nebraska Chamber. I'm Jim Pillen from Columbus, Platte County, Nebraska. I'm a husband. My bride of 42 years is here. I'm a father of 4, grandfather of 7. I'm a veterinarian. I'm a livestock producer. I'm a farmer. My story's pretty simple. I grew up west of a little town. My folks were tenant farmers west of a little town called Platte Center. It's exactly 100 miles straight west of Omaha. My brothers and I grew up on the end of a pitchfork and scoop shovel. My dad taught me how to pull a pig when I was 5 years old. Incredibly blessed because growing up we learned about faith, family, hard work, and the value of a dollar. Had 2 dreams. Had a dream to be a veterinarian from the time I was 8 years old, and back in that day, Bob Devaney was making things happen, and it was like every Nebraska kid, I had a dream to be a football player. Coach Osborne coached me up significantly. I was all big. My mother was proud. I was an academic All-American. Suzanne and I moved back after I got my doctorate from veterinary medicine. We had 2 babies, and I partnered with my dad. We had 60 sows on a dirt lot. Bet on myself after 6-7 years, and we put a farm together. Started with 3 people, and we've grown that business to over 1,000 Nebraska jobs. We've been incredibly blessed, and that's why I stand before you to run as your next governor, so that the future generations, my grandkids, your grandkids, and future generations can live their dreams out in Nebraska. I'm about 4 things. I'm about agriculture, taxes, our kids, and our values. I'm about faith and family and pro-life. It's really a privilege to be here and have these conversations today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wiedenauer.
So my name is Braylon Ridenauer, and I'm from Northeast Nebraska. I live in Elkhorn. I'm married and have 2 younger children. And I'm the IT manager for a local company that is Nebraska grown right here right out in Omaha. And my background spans technology, all things technology, from the military to healthcare, as well as now the private sector. And I'm running for governor because I want to bring back common sense and integrity and honesty and transparency back into our government. Now, that should be synonymous, but it hasn't been. I don't feel it has been for quite a long time. And I've seen that void, and it's time to fill that void. I'm a true conservative. I'm a constitutionalist. I prioritize our constitutional liberties first and foremost, and I'm also a devoted Christian. Now, not only do I bring my technical background and experience as a manager and also as a leader, because those are 2 different things, but I also bring in what I call a 360-degree perspective to problem solving. That means you understand the problem completely, you see it from every angle possible, you identify and implement a solution that not only will fix the problem, but is sustainable for years and years to come. So my name is Braylon Ridenauer, and I'm honored for this opportunity to be here, and I thank you for your time to listen to me and hear my points and my perspective and views and my plans on what I'm going to do to make Nebraska a better state.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenauer.
Thank you. My name is Teresa Thibodeau, and I would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event today and thank everybody who has tuned in. This gives us an opportunity to show everybody what our uniqueness and differences are. And I'm different because I have had the first-hand experience to see what our high taxes have done to our small businesses and our farms across this whole state. I've had firsthand experience in sitting with parents and listening to their concerns about their children's education, their children's safety, and quite frankly, their children's everyday freedoms. They are scared that our everyday values are being taken away. I sat with parents who cried because I had to tell them I could no longer care for their child because the government told me I had to kick 90 children out of my place of business. I want to be your governor because when people want to indoctrinate instead of educate our children, I will stand in their way. When people want to become soft on crime in our communities, I will stand in their way. And if the government ever wants to shutter our churches, shutter our businesses, enforce illegal mandates, I will stand in their way. Because I'm a mom, I'm a former state senator, a business owner, and I'm a Nebraskan. And it is my true intention to stand up, protect, defend, and promote the values that Nebraska holds dear. And in a quote from Ronald Reagan, America is the last best hope for the world. And Nebraska is part of that vision. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, the softball time is over. We're getting to the good stuff now. The state of Nebraska is a relatively high tax state, both in terms of income tax, which obviously affects our businesses, and property tax, which tends to have a big role in our agriculture businesses. We are a state that also values quality schools, infrastructure investment, and local control. How would you specifically address taxing and spending as governor to create a better environment for all businesses throughout Nebraska? We're going to start on this side now and work our way back down.
Thank you. And as we all know, Nebraska is a high-tax state, and we've been fighting it for decades. And we need to really look at what these issues are and how we can provide the relief that Nebraskans have been asking for so many years. And as your governor, I will do this in these ways. One, we cannot address our tax problem without addressing our spending problem. Because we can lower taxes all we want, but if we continue spending, taxes will only continue to go up. As governor, I will do a deep dive into all government agencies that receive state funding and figure out the waste and the inefficiencies and cut them. As a state, we need to step up and fulfill our constitutional responsibility to fund public schools. And we need to fund those schools per student. And hey, what better person to know how much it costs to educate a child but a former educator herself? And the state is going to have to step up and do that. That will have an immediate impact on tax relief for property owners. As governor, I will work with the agriculture sector in order to promote and increase trade. We will develop and increase our Nebraska raised and grown products across the world. I will work with citizens. I will work with chambers, Farm Bureau, local governments, in order to ensure that the tax plan I deliver to the legislature has the broad support of every Nebraskan. And I have already started this. In fact, people laugh at me. I've been studying tax policy since I was down in the legislature. But I've met with citizens of our state, I've met with economists, I've met with government leaders, and I've met with community leaders because I want to know why this has not happened yet and why it has failed in the past and how we can ensure that it happens in the future. Because as governor, we need tax reform now because we owe it to Nebraskans to give them the tax reform that they have been asking for years. Thank you.
So here's what we need to do. I'm a proponent for the EPIC consumption tax plan. This in itself would get rid of property tax, inheritance tax, corporate tax, and income tax. It would broaden our tax base. It would increase our revenue. It would decrease the tax burden on Nebraskans. It would also provide assistance for our lower income families because they're just as important in this state as well, without putting too heavy of a tax burden on them. And lastly, among many things, it also eliminates taxes, sales tax on business-to-business expenses and purchases and transactions. This is what we need. This is going to help grow not only our everyday citizens, but also our entrepreneurs, and also our businesses right here in Nebraska. As well, of course, we treat this like a business, right? We're talking about money here. We treat it like we would your monthly budget for your family. You increase your revenue and you cut your spending. Now, there's a couple ways to cut spending. Either we cut it by getting rid of something, which I don't jump to specifically always. What I like to do first is I look and say, well, how can we make things more efficient? What can we do in government? I believe with my technological background, there are many areas in which we could leverage technology in our government to save money. We also need to be sure that we're being accountable for every single dollar that is coming and going in our state because we owe it to Nebraskans. The money doesn't come from anywhere else but Nebraskans, citizens, and we need to be responsible. We need leadership that's responsible and accountable for our dollars. And when you start getting rid of bad spending policies, like this annual end of the year spending spree of use it or lose it money, these policies like this are wasteful. We need to bring, like I said earlier in my introduction, a common sense approach to all of this, and that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Go ahead, Regent.
Well, I think we all agree spending and our taxation is out of control. It's really important that as your governor that we have a skill set to bring people together from our rural communities and our urban so we can have transformative change and make it happen. I'm a believer that we have a property tax problem that is keeping our state from being extraordinary and having transformative growth, that now is the time to take place. Why will it happen? It's been having a conversation for 60 plus years. Why will it happen now? Because property tax is so out of whack. The three-legged stool is so far over that we can't sit on it. And it's not just affecting farmers and ranchers. It's affecting every single Nebraskan from the river out to Harrison, Nebraska. The misnomer that this is a farmer and rancher problem is far out of whack. It's affecting people who with their rent. It's affecting Nebraskans where they buy their homes, for crying out loud, because of their property tax. So it's really important that we have to get the property tax under problem. First step is decrease spending. We all have to look in the mirror and step up and take some accountability about spending. If you look at state government, needs to be run, as does all local government, like a business. We have to have business practices. None of us in business and agriculture in Nebraska start a budget every year with self-appointed 3 or 4% budget increases. We start figuring out how to run our business with less, not more, every single year. It's important, the budgeting process, the mentality that if we budget and we don't use it, we lose it. We've got to change that mindset and have the attitudinal change that we reward for not spending and we run it as a business. It's incredibly important that we bring people together and have transformative change. I'm opposed to epic tax. It will hurt our economy. If we tell Nebraskans that the only way that we are going to solve our problems is by paying tax when we buy things, Nebraskans are not going to buy things. They're going to go other places. We need to come together to solve the three-legged stool and make sure that we make ourselves competitive and have a great opportunity for future generations.
Well, thank you for the tax question, and we'll tackle this in maybe two different areas. First on the income tax side, then we'll move in on the education side, because they affect a couple different things here. In fact, today, well, one, we have a 1967 tax code. We're so far out of whack on being competitive with the states around us and nationally, but we are working on doing this. As a matter of fact, today I just voted a bill out of committee to reduce the individual income tax by a whole % by 2025. Last year, we passed a bill to cut the corporate tax down from 7.81% to 7.25%. We are making strides on this front. As I mentioned before, the Social Security tax, we passed that bill last year as my priority. I'm coming back this year, just passed on general file 42-0 to speed up that tax in 2025. So we are addressing the income tax side, but we are far from being done. And as governor, in 2023, we will continue to lead the charge to make Nebraska competitive. When we're talking about the individual tax rate, that affects about 2/3 of the businesses, if not more, in the state of Nebraska. And we are hurting the backbone with our small business owners by putting the burden tax that they have. That inhibits investment, capital investment. It inhibits their ability to hire people, and that is something that we need to address in a very quick manner. The other aspect of this is the education funding, and I'm currently working on that bill as well. We have 244 school districts in the state of Nebraska. 86 of those school districts get equalization aid, meaning that in rural Nebraska, your sales and income tax dollars are going to the state and they're never returning back in the form of state funding. We are working on that through reducing property tax of 20% or greater, getting equalization aid over the next 3 years to all school districts in the state of Nebraska. Because if you're talking about growing Nebraska, we have to tackle education and have a robust education system for our K through 12. But we also have to have a reform in our tax code. We are not being able to build Nebraska based on a solid foundation. So as governor, that is the first thing that we're going to tackle, is rolling into session in 2023, putting together a plan with the senators, with the legislature, that tackles all these things that have been talked about for years. We are making steps and strides this session. We are going to have a huge opportunity moving into next year as well with the $400 million above forecasting, the other funds that are coming with ARPA. But we need to make sure that we build the foundation so that we can grow Nebraska. We can invest in our companies through some of our incentive programs like Imagine Nebraska, like Business Innovation Act, all these things that matter to business. We need to put tools in the hands of individuals to innovate and grow Nebraska, and as governor, that's what I'll do.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me say this. Let me talk about what's happening right now to every person in this state. Food costs are up 40%. Fuel at the gas pump is up 50%. Energy costs are up 35 to 40%. We've been talking and talking for I don't know how long about Nebraska's falling behind. It's falling behind. Nebraska's not falling behind. We're way behind. Okay, let's identify what the true problem is. I can share this with you. You cannot run a business like I see our government and even our state government run our state government. We've got a lot of options on the table. What's it going to take to put it together? It's going to take a couple basic things. Number one, as governor, I'm going to bring the brightest and sharpest minds together. Steve Moore is already on my campaign. He and I are going to be meeting on Saturday. I can share with you, as I said earlier, I've built businesses in 40 states. I own 6 businesses today in 5 states. 3 of those are in Nebraska. And I know what it takes to negotiate a deal. One person, one governor, whoever it is up here, is not going to make this happen. It's going to take a team of people. It's going to take a governor who's willing to go out and have meeting after meeting across the state with business people, small and large farm operations from the east to the west. And it's going to take bringing people together. I was one of the early sponsors of the Blueprint for Nebraska tax program. There's some incredible ideas in that. We also need to look at our exemptions. We need to look at a consumption tax. We need to look at all the avenues. And like an investor does on Wall Street, you don't usually invest in one company. You look and you pick a series of things. The same way in my farming operation. We don't just raise corn or beans. We raise an array of things that protect us. We're going to do the same thing from a tax base in this country. And let me just share this with you. I know there's a bill, LB 938, right now in the legislature. We don't need a tax cut for Charles W. Herbster, Jim Pillen, or Pete Ricketts. What we need a tax cut for is for teachers, hospital workers, small business owners, people on the street that are the engine of our economy. And as governor, I guarantee you that's what I'm going to do from day one.
Thank you. Senator Blood.
All right, friends, I'm going to share a dirty little secret with you that nobody ever talks about, and I've yet to hear on the stage today. Your property taxes are high because of unfunded, underfunded mandates, and because in 2011, the state of Nebraska took away the aid to local government. What does that mean for somebody like us? We're a Dillon's Rule state. Now, say the counties, for example, are creatures, as are other political subdivisions, like our schools, like our municipalities, are creatures of the state. And under Dillon's rule, they really can't do anything that we don't put into statute. And so what has happened over the last 20 years is that we continue to put them in a position where they have to raise your property taxes. And then we point at them and say, it's not our fault. It's local government's fault that your property taxes are high. So, for example, Sarpy County, as of today, has over $10 million in unfunded mandates this year alone. Look at a small county like Johnson County, where Tecumseh State Prison is located. Did you hear me say state prison? When an inmate dies, who pays for that autopsy? The county. Who pays for the grand jury investigation? The county. When you have judges in your county, who pays for their staff? State employees. The county. Who pays for DHHS office space and for their utilities? The county. Our local governments, because of the state, are so overwhelmed and overburdened with unfunded and underfunded mandates, no matter what sexy talk you hear about taxes, you will never see real property tax relief until that is resolved. Period. We promised to reinstate aid to local government in 2011. Do you think that that's ever been reinstated? Of course not, because now we can stand up in the state of Nebraska and say, hey, look, our coffers are full. We've done so well. Well, they did it on the backs of the taxpayers. So no matter how much you move things around, no matter how much sexy talk you have about taxes, until you change that one thing, you will never have true property tax relief. And quite frankly, consumption tax, I'm not going to tell the retired citizen next to me, hey, I know you paid income tax all your entire life, but now I'm going to tax you on your food, and I'm going to tax you on your medication. And gee, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And if you put pen to paper, friends, on the consumption tax, Nebraska will be $4 billion in the hole within 4 years. And where will you go from that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Now that we've tackled the fantastic topic of taxes, let's move on to another kind of problem right now in our great state. With historically low and record-breaking unemployment rates, Nebraska businesses have identified workforce as the biggest obstacle they're facing right now, especially for the 18 to 34-year-old age group. Our communities say that enhancing housing, childcare, local amenities, and of course, immigration policy can help, in addition to building Nebraska's welcoming reputation. Describe your plans to grow workforce and population, and would you please speak specifically to at least one of those community priorities? Senator Blood, we're going to go back down to you to kick this off and work our way back.
Well, thank you. Let's start with immigration. We need to have good nonpartisan immigration policy. We don't need to look any further than Nebraska medicine to know how important it is to bring immigrants into our state that can stay here and work and help our workforce. But we also have to look at licensure. Licensure issues are huge hurdles. I have had 6 interstate compacts passed since I've been senator because it's a priority for me and for our military spouses as well. We have to do compassionate licensure. We know that we have people in Nebraska that are felons that can't get jobs right now. And I'm not talking about somebody who is a dangerous felon getting a license and endangering your life. But we have people who have committed felony crimes that are not dangerous individuals that cannot get decent jobs and cannot help us in our workforce because they can't get the certifications or license required because they have that felony. And so we have to decide where do we draw the line and how do we utilize that workforce to the best of our ability. Now, we also need to make sure that we understand that our kids go to college usually within 50 miles of where we live. If we have the jobs and we have the income and we have the affordable housing and we have appropriate child care, they're going to want to stay here. But we don't have a welcoming environment in Nebraska. When you talk to the young people as to why they're leaving, they are leaving for better job opportunities, but many of them feel their voices aren't heard. You remember me talking about prosperity for all and bringing everyone to the table. I think that if you look at a lot of the strategic plans that Nebraska has put together, they talk about the 18 to 34-year-olds who are going to drive our economy, but they don't include the 18 to 34-year-olds in planning what that economy is going to look like. And so we have a lot of opportunities. I know we're going to talk about technology, so I don't want to skip ahead. But we have a lot of opportunities, and one of them that we're not looking at is the people that are no longer in the workforce. Our unemployment rate is low because we're only talking about the people who are actively looking for jobs. Another dirty little secret, right? They never tell you that part. So they're only looking at the people who are actively looking for jobs. We have people currently that are not in the workforce that aren't looking because they don't think that those jobs exist. But we also know that the masses have risen and the pay has gotten better. Now we need to get those people. Some of them are retired. They retired early during the pandemic, and God bless them for doing that, but they're a highly skilled workforce. We need to find how did we get them back into the workforce. And then we need to work with our businesses to help them understand that this wonderful demographic that's going to be driving our economy needs to know why they want to stay in Nebraska. And that means flexibility when it comes to your work environment. That means, again, a welcoming work environment. That means allowing people, be it to work from home or to adjust their hours, provide childcare. We have a lot of opportunities if we plan accordingly. And so we need to make sure that whatever we plan isn't about the age bracket on this stage. It's about the 18 to 34-year-olds and what their voices are telling us that they want. They don't want an epic consumption tax. And by the way, the word epic is like 30 years ago. They want to know that they can have that flexibility, have good pay, and feel comfortable in the community where they're serving. So until we hear their voices, until we address those issues of childcare, of housing, of a workplace environment, of a community where they feel welcome, we are going to continue to have that brain drain. We're going to continue to have people going to other states where they do feel welcome, where they can get better jobs, where they can get better childcare, and where they feel like it's home.
Thank you, Senator Blood. Mr. Herbster.
Well, first of all, I love young people, and that is the future of any state. It's the future of our country. I can share with you through the Judith A. Herbster Foundation, the Charles W. Herbster Foundation, we have funded scholarships, training. I think one of the greatest things missing today in young people is mentorship and apprenticeship. I also would say to you that many, many young people, their DNA is not necessarily to go to a 4-year university type program, but a trade school, a private school. You know, most people don't realize we're number 3 today in all the states in Nebraska. This is in a survey that was done for high-tech jobs in this state. We're number 4 for jobs overall in this state. Nebraska has so much to offer. And I've said on the campaign trail, we have to market who we are, what we are, and provide that atmosphere. We changed the property tax, the income tax. We enlighten our tax code from 1967 to a 21st century tax code. We look at places like Iowa, South Dakota, South Carolina. The answers are out there. It's not that it's that hard. It just takes leadership, and it takes an intentional method and an intentional design to make sure we don't lose those young people that's leaving our state. And those that are coming into our state and being educated, we need to keep them here. If we keep them here, you're going to keep the parents here in many cases. You're going to keep the grandparents here in many cases. I've said for a long time, everything that's manufactured in Nebraska, everything that's raised in Nebraska needs to have the Nebraska state logo on it. We need to market the great things that we have in Nebraska. We're not losing the jobs in many cases to Florida or Texas. We're losing them to Iowa and South Dakota. So they're not moving to change in climate. They're just moving because they want that attractive state that they can raise a family and do business in. We have it here in Nebraska.
Well, low unemployment rates make for good headlines, but they don't make for a good workforce situation. Currently, we have 2,000 individuals with bachelor degrees leaving the state of Nebraska every year. We have $72 million in lost revenue every single year because of the brain drain. So how do we tackle this? Childcare being one of those things. As I've traveled the state of Nebraska, I've witnessed really great opportunities or innovative ideas that we can replicate really all across Nebraska. Two places in particular, Red Cloud and Gothenburg, Nebraska. They've started a public-private partnership with a 501c3 where businesses are coming together to help communities with parents that are two-working household. And that is one thing that we can replicate. I've also passed some bills dealing with Step Up to Quality to make sure that there's tax credits for employers and employees to get educated to help with their education as it pertains to dealing with kids. But let's talk about the workforce housing. Workforce housing is another huge aspect of this. We need to start working more on the deregulation. I've done some things and passed a bill in the legislature that deregulated the condominium development. But when we're talking about millennials, we're talking about Gen Z, the 18 to 35 individuals, they want amenities, they want walkability, they want to be on Main Street. And that doesn't mean just Omaha and Lincoln. That means really all across the state of Nebraska with breweries, wineries, but it takes a community and it takes doers. And I've been very, very pleased as I've traveled the state of Nebraska to witness a lot of doers across the state of Nebraska working with the Department of Revenue, working with the Department of Economic Development, local communities coming together. We just need to make sure we're giving them the tools. And as governor, I will make sure that that happens. When it comes to the inclusive discussion, we have 18 to 35, like I said, we have individuals leaving the state of Nebraska that can help with our workforce and growing Nebraska and being innovative. But we've messaged, as Nebraska, literally and figuratively, that it's not for everyone. And what type of message does that send to the entire nation, that we're not open for business? We need to make sure that we have an inclusive presentation, that as we present Nebraska to everyone, that we're engaged with people. We want people here. We want young people to work. But as governor, that is part of that role, is to message that. Working with local communities and with the legislature to build a foundation with investing on economic innovation and giving the tools to our entrepreneurs, but also building out our tax code, building that foundation to continue to grow Nebraska. And as governor, I will work on that and make sure that that happens.
Well, thank you. This is a topic that you could go down a lot of different places. I think it's really important that we stay focused and keep it simple. Extraordinary experience in the last 10 months as I've been in all 93 counties and listened to countless people about all the different issues going on in the state of Nebraska. The thing that's consistent everywhere, the thing that is amazingly consistent from the river out to Harrison, is when people will talk about the incredible jobs they have. I'm amazed at the Nebraskans, that are their innovation, their entrepreneurship, their risk-taking, and the incredible opportunities for people everywhere. The people to work elbow to elbow and make our communities phenomenal. Nebraskans want state government out of their hair. They want to be able to solve their problems and grow their communities and get all of these bureaucratic, wonderful do-gooders to try to make things better out of their hair so they can take their hands over and run their communities. The biggest issue of all is getting people to understand the government's not going to come in and solve your problems. Each community is going to figure it out for themselves. Workforce housing is the biggest issue. There's great stuff going on with child care and Boone Beginnings in Albion, Nebraska, and so forth. But if people can't take great jobs unless they have a place to live, and it's hurting everywhere. Everywhere that somebody is building homes for workforce, they are filled, they are sold, or they're rented before the last doors are hung 100% of the time. So you sit and say, why isn't this happening? What's going on? Why are we not getting homes built at breakneck speed in every community? Well, the problem is that it's only taken us about 40 years to figure it out. People aren't making enough money building workforce development. That's when communities have to come together and lower the costs, whether it's public-private partnership businesses, and even sometimes if a community decides TIF works for them. When the market doesn't work, that's when things have to happen. Workforce housing is essential for our communities to grow, and every community needs to know they can figure it out for themselves. They need leadership to be inspired to do things they can't together that they can do individually they can't, and they need government out of their hair. And that's what I'll do as your governor.
All right, so returning back to the idea of a 360-degree perspective of understanding a problem, let's look at the unemployment rate. It is true that the reason why unemployment has dropped, even though we haven't added a whole lot of jobs, we haven't added more individuals into the workforce, unemployment rate has dropped dramatically because there are more people who are unemployed not looking for a job. Why is that? Yes, some of them are because of government handouts, but we have other instances that we've been dealing with. There was a 40% increase in about the past year of filings for homeschooling. There are parents quitting their jobs and homeschooling, staying home and homeschool their children because of what's been coming out of our school system over the past year, year and a half. These kind of things we need to start identifying. Not that I'm a full supporter of homeschooling, but the reasons as to why parents are choosing to homeschool and what's going on, whether it be government handouts or the other issues that we need to identify, those need to be fixed, okay? Next thing we need to do is we need to make Nebraska, of course, an attractive state to want to live in. We know we have great things about this state. We need to advertise. We need to promote that around the country. But we have other issues that need to be resolved, and like bad policies, and like our tax structure, for example. We need to work with the legislatures. I have good relationships with many of them, so I can hit the ground running. We can start getting that tax code replaced with something that's going to work a lot better. The next thing is we have other options. One would be nonviolent criminals. I do support that. We have criminals coming out of our penitentiary systems who want to get back into the workforce. We need to be able to get them assimilated, as well as veterans, especially those that come from combat zones or those who have spent a lot of time in the military, and that is what they know. We need to get them involved in trades and get them training, education, and get them established into our workforce. Of course, license reformation. Professional licenses are ridiculous. I have my father-in-law. He lives here in Lincoln, right? He's a pipe fitter. He can work here, but he has to apply for a whole new license to do exactly what he already does to move to Omaha. This is ridiculous. I talked about bringing common sense back to government, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what we need to fix. As for development of homes, I personally know investors who are building homes, who are dumping money into it left and right. Child care opportunities. A lot of this is going to grow when our state starts growing and our business starts growing. From April 2020 to July 2021, we lost 3,387 people in the state. We got smaller. These problems need to be addressed, and we will bring more people, we'll bring more industry into this state, as well as child care and home development. And as governor, I'm going to be on the forefront of making sure that happens.
Well, I think we've probably been talking about brain drain as long as we've been talking about tax relief. So how are we finally going to get there? Because we can't continue to lose our young people or our talent to other states. I know we hear a lot on the national news about people leaving states and going to Texas and Florida. But it's very concerning here in Nebraska because a lot of our talent is leaving and they are going to surrounding states. I've even seen a lot of people going to Tennessee. We need to keep that talent here. And we need big ideas on how to do that. And as governor, I have those ideas. We can implement things across the state. We can work with our high schools, our community colleges, make sure that we are graduating students who are ready to enter the workforce. Work with our universities to make sure that they are graduating students who are ready to work in the current and new jobs that we will bring to Nebraska. And as we bring jobs to Nebraska, there's a few things we need to think about. As I've traveled the state, I've talked to several small communities who would love to have economic development come to their town, but they always get overlooked because when they apply for the grant, their projects aren't shovel ready. So that grant money goes elsewhere. And in my administration, it would be one of my top priorities to fix that and make sure that we can bring jobs and economic development across the entire state. We need to look at incubators in areas other than just Omaha, in regions all over the state, so that we can bring the development, the agribusiness, the manufacturing, the technology in the areas in which they will succeed. We need to look at what our children are looking for in the future. And we have a great example in our state. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Norfolk, Nebraska, and see what they're doing, because they saw back in 2017 that if they didn't take decisive action, they were going to become a ghost town. And they did. They put together a strategic plan, and it's amazing. The chamber, private business, the university, and developers worked together in order to create scholarships for the college in the town, in order to create multi and single family housing units that would keep young people there. They have a vibrant and cultural community for entertainment, because that's what young people are wanting if they want to move or stay in a town. And there's so many great things. I could probably sit here for the rest of my time and talk all about Norfolk, but I won't. But I wish many of you could have been there, and I actually suggest you go visit, especially in the summer when their new river project will be opened up. It's a great example for the whole state. And we can create new jobs all we want, but if we don't have anyone to fill those jobs, it won't do us any good. So we have to focus on our workforce. We need to get people back to work. You know, one of the things that is most self-fulfilling and gives people a sense of self-worth, helps them lift themselves out of poverty, is a job. We need to provide and match those people up with the jobs that will give them that self-fulfillment that they are looking for. And we can do all of those things. And if we are able to do those things, we can beat Texas and Florida, and Nebraska can be the opportunity state.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Well, Blueprint Nebraska has been mentioned a few times, so let's move to that and talk about that a little bit. It's identified 2 key areas for Nebraska to become economically competitive: attracting talent, which we just addressed, and accelerating innovation, research, and technology. What ideas do you have for making Nebraska more competitive in innovation over the next decade? Ms. Theobald, we'll start with you.
And this is another great example where we already have something actually right here in Lincoln that is helping create innovation. And it's the Nebraska Innovative Campus. But why should that just be here in Lincoln? Why can't we partner that campus up with the incubators that I mentioned earlier, so that we can have innovation in agribusiness, in manufacturing, and in technology all over the state? If we continue to do those and we work together with all of our communities, our private businesses, our chambers, and the people that have already implemented such great ideas, then we allow for a future of big ideas, of entrepreneurship, of vision. We allow the young generations to fulfill their creativity, to bring new ideas to the table, so that our economy can continue to grow and thrive.
So first off, we start with bringing broadband, quality broadband to the entire state that can be used for large businesses and corporations as well. Next thing is a ready infrastructure. Build it and they will come. Next thing is to get government out of the way. We know innovation flourishes when government reduces regulations. I support LB 1127 that Senator Wishard's put through about having a regulatory sandbox. These are kind of ideas that we need to be able to start building and developing here in the state. The next is allocation of resources. We need to ensure that we are providing grant money to our entrepreneurs, and to investing in them and their ideas. For example, we have a couple students from UNL who have developed the grain weevil right here in Nebraska. This is great technology. This is a great idea. The state should be all over that. Encourage them, supporting them, making sure they have the resources they need, and to ensure that they build those roots right here in this state. Lastly, promotion. We need to let the country know why we're such a great state. And we need to start bringing more people here, more talent, more entrepreneurs, and more business-minded individuals.
Mr. Pillen.
This one's a really quick one. it's all about our people. The most transformative technology is our people, and it starts with our kids. We have got to be able to make sure that we keep 100% of our kids at home. When I'm your governor, we're going to scale it, and we're going to have business, farmers and ranchers solve the brain drain problem. We will have all of our kids scholarshiped so that they will be able to get trained and then have a service academy and give 3 to 5 years depending upon their education. Half of our kids are getting no skill set development. All of them need to get a seat in trade schools or technical schools so they become certified welders, diesel technicians, and have incredible jobs. And then lastly, wouldn't it be wonderful, with conservative leadership in a pro-life state, that we stop abortion? Just where would we be if we didn't slaughter 220,000 babies in the last 49 years?
Senator.
Two main focuses with what the opportunity this next governor will have is infrastructure investment. That includes rural broadband, that includes roads funding. With broadband, we often think about rural broadband in the context of rural, but we have a deficiency even in North Omaha and South Omaha. So as governor, we need to make sure that we're investing in that for the future and for the generations. Expanding upon Business Innovation Act, that has been a program that the state has, and we need to expand upon that to give innovators the tools to continue to grow and do startups and give those to the 18 and 35-year-olds that we're talking about. Micro enterprise tax credit, the rural workforce housing, investments into those opportunities to allow those individuals that are the doers across the state of Nebraska to innovate. And as governor, I will invest in those programs that will continue to work and have been working.
John Maxwell says it best, everything rises and falls on leadership. As the next governor, there's one thing that I know. All governors have the power of influence and have the power of the purse. And I can share with you that broadband all the way out west, trade schools. I just got a call yesterday from an individual in New York City who said, Charles, I hear you're running for governor. I want to come out next week. If you've got any time, I want to come to Omaha. I'm sick and tired of what they're doing in New York City. I want to talk to you about moving my business to Nebraska. It takes contacts, it takes negotiation, and it takes relationships. For 35 years, everything I've done has been built on relationships, trust, integrity, and honesty, and we just are missing the mark in this state. To fix this, we've got to start with updating the tax code, and then we've got to provide all the things that's been talked about up here to make sure that Nebraska is number one.
All right, friends, we don't need to look much further than Denver, Colorado. Nebraska needs to build the same type of ecosystem that they built when it comes to technology, and that takes a plan. It takes public-private partnerships. We talk about broadband a lot, and we know Nebraska is way behind. But here's something we could get in front of. In 2 years, we're going to be able to get our broadband from satellites, and we're nowhere near that right now. We talk so much and are so far behind other states, right? We talk about what other states have and we don't have, but we don't have a plan. We've put money into broadband for a very long time, and where are we at? Not very far. But we have to talk about technology, about biotech, about public-private partnerships. We've got Offutt Air Force Base, the Innovation Campus. Those are only 2 of about 20 different localities that we can utilize to help train our workforce, to help educate our communities. And when we work together, we start those businesses, we expand those businesses, and we grow those businesses. And we're doing it based on a unified plan.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, we've already come to the conclusion part of this, so thank you, candidates, for answering those hard-hitting questions. We'll end with a softball as well and just let you go ahead and have your closing comments or any conclusive statements you want to make. So, Senator Blood, you'll start again.
Friends, I have one thing to say. If you're unhappy with how things have been the last few decades, if you're unhappy with the fact that your property taxes are too high, then I'm going to ask you, why do you keep voting the same way? Isn't it time for a change? Isn't it time to have somebody who's like you, who's lived in Nebraska, and know what it's like sometimes to live paycheck to paycheck, knows what it's like when you have to get to work and you can't find childcare, knows what it's like when you have to have two incomes to pay for your health insurance, wondering how you're going to balance your budget, not to mention 8 years, 4-1 elections of experience. Friends, it's time to start looking elsewhere. It's time for change. It's time for new blood in Nebraska, and I'm going to be that change.
Well, it's been an honor to be at this forum, to be here with this group of individuals. Let me just share with you that besides the economic development and the taxes and the things that we've talked about that we know is very important, there's some other issues in this state as governor that I will take head on. Number one is illegal immigration. If we can't close the border down south, I'm going to close the border in Nebraska. We haven't even talked today about the fact that depending on who you talk to, somewhere between $250 and $300 million a year in this state goes for illegal immigration. Along with illegal immigration, we have a second thing that comes with that may even be more deafening than what I see with illegal immigration, and that is drugs. The drugs that are coming in to every state, to the United States, approximately $400 million worth across the border every single 30 days. As governor, we're going to look at the entire package of what it takes to make Nebraska the best state that we've ever been. I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman, and as a businessman, if you have a problem, you fix it. We're going to fix it.
All right, Senator.
Thank you again for having me here today. It's been great to address a lot of these issues with you. Two things that stand out to me is next generation leadership. Who has the ability to connect with those individuals that are 18 and 35? Who has a plan to actually execute? The second part of that is the experience. As a state senator the last 8 years, I've passed 60 bills ranging from a whole host of issues, particularly with tax reform and economic development. Those are the things that are important to make sure that the next governor has the ability to hit the ground running day one, building the coalitions to make sure that we get things done that have been talked about for years and years and years. I know traveling the state of Nebraska that Nebraskans like to win. And as governor, we will win.
Nebraska is the greatest place in the world to live, and we have the greatest people. As your governor, we'll focus on our kids, making sure that we train them, we keep them here, and we defend them and protect them. As your governor, we'll focus on agriculture and make sure that we protect our waters and that we can grow our agriculture, that we can sell it, and we can defend it. All Nebraskans know that when farmers and ranchers are doing great, all Nebraskans do great. It's really important. And lastly, it's really important that we defend our values and stand up for our values. We got to make sure that we can protect our law and order, that we can make sure that our kids' adolescent minds are protected. I'm about faith, family, and pro-life, and as your governor, I'll work hard to defend all of our values and make Nebraska continue to be the great state that it is and place to live. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not running because I'm looking for some sort of golden ticket. I'm here because we need new, bold leadership that's willing and wants to do the right thing, willing and capable. Politics is about people. It's about relationships. I have been working as a leader for many, many years. I have the skills. I have the ability to be able to do that, to bridge the gaps that we need to bridge, to bring in solutions that are going to be sustainable. But I'm a candidate of the people for the people, and that means I have been shoulder to shoulder with Nebraskans, fighting what we've been seeing coming out of our schools, fighting for medical freedoms, for your choices, from our choices. I'm here to do the right thing. I don't have a political background. I'm here because I want to make this state a better place. Why? Because this is my home. This is where my family lives. And when I'm done as governor, as I'm done serving Nebraskans, as a leader of this state, I'm staying right here in Nebraska, and I'm going to keep working in a state that is better than when I started.
Well, it's been an honor to share my well thought out hopes and vision for this great state. And all of those plans I shared today, I have learned through all of my travels throughout Nebraska and what we are already doing so well here and how we can bring it throughout the rest of the state. As I've said before, I built my business here in Nebraska. I employed over 42 people. I have balanced a budget, both at the state level and business level. I know what it's like. I saw parents every day. I saw their struggles. I know what families are going through. And a lot of people will ask me, well, what do you think you can do to ensure, that you can win or to tell the people that you're the right person for Nebraska? And I look at them and my answer is, watch me. Because I have the desire, the passion, the will to ensure that we continue to grow our state, protect our freedoms, and defend everything that Nebraskans hold true. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. What an exceptional group of leaders that we have here in front of us. We truly appreciate all of you being willing to take on one of the most important leadership roles in our great state. So thank you for joining us for this. Thank you for joining us here and at home. We hope this has been informative and taught you a little bit more about these fantastic candidates that we have. A special thanks goes out to News Nebraska, News Channel Nebraska, for broadcasting this event live. And thank you to all the other media who are in the room with us today or joining us remotely. But most importantly, thank you to all of our local chamber members. Whether it's local or at the state level, events like this would not be possible without your support for community and economic growth. If you're interested in joining a Chamber of Commerce or finding out more about it, stop by your local chamber or start your journey by going to nechamber.com today. In conclusion, I want to thank everyone in this room and our candidates for allowing me to live out my lifelong dream of being a political moderator. Thank you very much. Don't forget to get out and vote on May 10th so Nebraska can remain one of the best places to live, work, and play in the United States of America. Take care of each other and yourself.
We now join regular programming on News Channel Nebraska.
Watch those easterly winds turn more to the south, and as we go into